Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the stream, and welcome back to another video working on our little guy here, the F-51D Mustang by Tamiya, 1/32 scale. Let's just get started because we're almost done. Well, like I just said, we're almost done. This guy looks a little bit different than the last time you guys saw it. He's now got all the decals on her. I keep calling it a he, but it's really a she. You know, planes are always female. Yeah, we're done. As far as the actual build and assembly, the only thing I've got left to do on this guy is to just put the armaments on underneath the wings, and that's it. She's done. But I'm not done. The assembly is finished, sure, but we're not done. As you can see by these little paints on my desk, we're going to do some weathering, because this little girl, she's been through, well, she's been through war. She's been through battle. She's been shot at, she's been beaten up, she's been beaten down, she's been ridden hard and put away wet. That's nasty. Yeah, she's been through some stuff. As much as she's tried to keep it together and everything, she's been beaten down and hard and made to feel like she's not really worth very much. And yeah, and anyway, how are we going to do the weathering? Well, I like to use the AK Interactive. They're kind of a wash. Some are washes, some are panel liners, but they're all kinds of different things. I've got some engine grime. I've got a panel liner right here. I've got fuel stains, and I've got dust effects. So the dust effects I'm going to be using on the wheels, and I'll probably do those last. But yeah, using a couple of different techniques, we can do some weathering on this and make it look like she's actually been through some stuff and is a little bit dirty and dusty and worn and beaten on and walked on and shot at. Well, maybe not shot at, I'm not putting any bullet holes in it. But yeah, so I'll change my glasses and I'll change the camera and I'll show you guys how I'm going to be accomplishing this. Alright, so change this up. Alright, so basically, as you can see, I've got all the nice silver on there and everything like that. She looks really nice. Although the kit does come with a yellow decal to put on the back, I opted to just paint that yellow stripe on there rather than actually putting the decal on. I figured it's a little bit easier to add a little bit of wear and tear on it, or at least weathering, and make it not so perfectly brand new paint looking like the decal would have done. So anyway, first thing I'm going to start off with some fuel stains. This one right here, fuel stains. Put those mainly around the you know, the fuel tank areas. So let's just get this shaken up. The pigments in these, they tend to dry and they collect at the bottom. These paints, they settle pretty good. So you got to shake them up real good. Shake them up real good, and then they work pretty well. I really don't have any complaints for them. So now you guys should know I have added a clear coat onto this, so everything is sealed in, decals included, cleared over top of the decals. So they're all sealed in nice. Okay, doesn't that look like beautiful, beautiful fuel stains? So all we do, get in here, and I'm just going to go doink like that right there. That's all I need. Put another one here, and we have a door on this side too, so I'm going to put some in there too. And that's it. And that's it for fuel. Now I did notice there is like a little thing here where my finger is kind of tapping. There's a hole in the decal for that little exhaust thing. There's a little thing back there. One thing that is noticed in this kit, I was watching a video. A guy was doing a walk around on a P-51 Mustang. I believe his was a P-51, not an F, which at the end of the day doesn't make too much difference. P or F. F just means it's a later model when they started using the F designation for fighter instead of P for pursuit. So if you ever was curious why the modern aircraft have the F in front of them and the older aircraft from World War II, a lot of them have the P. That's because they pursuit aircraft and then they changed it to fighter. Anyway, one little detail this kit has right here by my finger. Oops, my panels fell off. Let's see if I can get this on the camera here in an angle you guys can see right there. This guy right there. That's a little detail that I would have never even thought about. But that little guy there is a drain. What does it drain? It drains pee. Yeah, you heard me. Pee. As in urine. As in when the pilot has to go to the bathroom, well, he can't just, walk over to the back of the plane and go. So there's actually a pipe that goes up to a little hose that he can actually go to the bathroom in. Now that panel dropped on the floor and I don't know where it went. Kind of bounced somewhere and I don't see it. Where did you go? Hold on. Bear with me a moment while I find my panel that fell on the floor. It seems to have disappeared into the nether regions of my carpet. But I got it. There we go. All right. Continuing on. We're going to add some. Now, it says panel liner, but I'm not really using it as a panel liner. Mix that up nice. This is really just kind of a really dark brown. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of doink, doink, random spots like this. You wonder why you're doing that. You will see. You will see. If you've never seen this done before, then you're going to be wondering why I'm doing this, but I should put the other panel back on. So we can go ding, ding, ding. There we go. I'll do it on a couple of these two spots here. Raise this flap up. Okay. I'll do a couple of spots on the back wings too. There we go. I'll get to the fuselage soon enough. I'll show you guys the effects of this stuff, right? So I'll get my thinner and clean my brush. Now I can let this dry completely, or I can start working with it right away. It doesn't really matter too much. Although the longer you let it dry, then the more you're going to have to work at it to get it to blend. That's the idea behind what I'm about to do, is blending. So what I'm going to do is grab one of my, these brushes are, they've got there's stiff bristles on them. So I'll grab the one that's got the longest one. I don't need the short bristle. And I think I got drop one. No, I didn't. Okay. Okay. Now you take some white spirit. Okay. Now this stuff is a great thinner for these products, but it doesn't touch the Tamiya lacquer. And that's the whole point behind this. So just kind of dip the brush in there, and I'm going to put it on some paper towel. I don't want the brush super wet. Okay. Now if you want even dirtier looks, you can use some older thinner like I've got. Excuse me. I've used the same stuff. This is white spirit also, but I've used this to clean brushes, and so it looks kind of nasty at the bottom. And I could shake this up and then use that. It's really up to you. Now what I want to do with my fuel stains, I want to actually have these running down, right? So what I'm going to do is kind of pull it down like this. Now you see it's not really doing anything with this one. Well, maybe you can't see. Here, let's do this. It's not really doing anything. So there's something wrong with my fuel stain color, because it shouldn't be looking like this. Now the mineral spirits can clean it up, but it's not behaving properly. So I'm going to clean that right off of there completely. It's not behaving itself in a fashion that's proper. So the rest of these should be fine. Okay. What I want to do is you take a spot such as on the flap here, and you just kind of stab at it a little bit, and you turn that little blotch into a bit of a stain. I'm going to do that with all of these. And you can, the more blended you want it to be, then you just add more thinner to it. Your brush starts to get dirty and you don't like it, it's looking too dirty, like say that. Then I just grab my paper towel, clean the brush off a little bit, and just keep working at it. And whichever direction you want it to blend, you can do that. I want this bird to look dirty, and that's the whole purpose behind this. Right? If you feel like you're starting to, it's not really blending very well, you just grab the thinner and add a little more. If you want it to look like maybe some oil or something was dropped on there and then it streaked down, you can pull it like this, right? It's up to you. Whatever look you want. One thing I tend to do with my more modern aircraft sometimes is I'll actually grab my finger actually and do that and streak it down to kind of pull it up and streak it a little more and make it look like maybe something was dropped there and it never got cleaned up, right? As my brush starts to get a little bit dry, just dip it in the thinner again. A little wipe on the cloth. And then take a sip of the coffee. And we keep at it. You don't want all your spots to look exactly the same, so don't be afraid to rotate your brush, move it around. Because if all of your little blotches look the same, then it looks like somebody just photoshopped it. And that's not right. For my flaps, I am going to do a little bit of a streak on there, just to kind of make it look like it was streak. This one I'm going to streak like this, make it look like something really dripped. Somebody dropped something there. This is really just the beginning of all of this, right? So you can see every now and then I'm changing up the angle of my brush so that it's not just symmetrical. See, this one's maybe a little too much, so I'm going to clean off my brush a little bit and go back at it. That little dot was just a little too much, right? And if you don't like it, you can actually just wipe a little bit off with my finger and go back at it. The nice thing about this stuff is the mineral spirits or white spirits really help out in making it look like you can work with it really easy. Of course, maybe I want this to look like there was maybe a hydraulic leak or something like that. So you can clean it up, refine these how much or how little you want. I want this to actually go a little bit on the logo, the insignia, so it looks more like, adds a little bit of realism to my decal. One thing I have done in the past is I'm kind of a little bit wary about over weathering. And that's something that I recognize in my modeling is I'm going to tell myself I'm going to really weather the thing up, and then when I do it I hold back a lot, right? And so I'm telling myself now I'm going to weather this guy a lot, and I want to try not to hold back so much. So that's basically the top of this wing done. So now I'll work on this other side. So I'll reapply some thinner to my brush. I do want to put a little bit more along the part of the wing where the pilot would step. I think that's fair enough to say that would get pretty dirty. I am going to redo my fuel stains. I'm not sure what was going on with that paint, but it dried in a really weird way and it just didn't work. So I'll have to redo it. of course we've got to add some weathering and stuff for the guns. So we'll get to doing that too. You have spots like this where you've got that blemish where I really screwed up with the paint. Well, actually what happened was I dropped a little piece of glue down on there, and well, let's just say I can try and make that look like, I can sort of try and blend that in a little bit with the rest of this stuff. Almost done with the wings. Now, of course, if this is a situation where you're going for like a particular look where you want it to look more, you know, like it's maybe not so, I'm not really following the lines on the wings here properly, am I? There we go. Again, you can do as little or as much as you want. It's really up to you. Now, my blotches here are looking a little like they're symmetrical, like they're all the same kind of thing. So I want to blend them a little bit. And how I'm going to blend them is just by using a little more thinner on my brush to get them to blend. And just use a little more thinner to blend it out a little bit. By using the thinner, it kind of feathers your edges a little bit more. Now you can use a softer brush, doesn't really matter. In fact, I'm going to use a softer brush. I just have to find it here. It's a big brush, it's a little bit softer. Okay. Using a softer brush can help with kind of blending it a little bit, right? Blend it and kind of feather those edges a little bit, like so. So that doesn't look like such a hard edge on every single one. Okay, we're going to go back to the fuel stage now. This stuff, I'm not sure why it dried the way it did. But my other brush, like that. It's almost like it's somehow thinned out. See, I want it to blend out like this. It's supposed to do that. A little bit on the side. So I'll let those dry. This this stuff, I'm not sure what's gone on. Something happened to that. Maybe it's an old batch or something that is finally reaching the end of its lifespan. I don't know. It's very possible, I guess. Realistically, you know, you buy these paints on at the hobby store. You really have no idea how long they've been sitting on the hobby store shelf. Okay, let's move on to the tail fin, or tail wing. I'm just going to hold it up like this and do more of the same. A little bit more. Here we go. Similar fashion, I've made my tail wing look really dirty and nasty. Now we're going to move on to the fuselage. So one thing I do want to do is put my cowl back on. And I want it to stay put. So I'm going to tape it down. A little strip of tape. The propeller actually is what holds it down when you put the prop on. So just do that. Now I'm going to choose my engine grime to do along the sides where the exhaust is. Make sure this is shaken up real good. All right. Engine grime is just kind of a little different shade of brown, really, is all the difference is. But I want to put some along here. Especially underneath here. A few spots. Even on the top of the cowl, because this is kind of just a brownish color. I'm going to carry it around underneath here. To a few spots. Even though it's right in the middle of a panel, you'd think, oh, you wouldn't get engine grime leaking out of that. Well, it's not really the point. It's the fact that it's a little bit different. I'm really just wanting to make this thing look dirty. I know this is some kind of a drain hole for oil, so I'll make sure that I deal with that. And so that'll be it for that, okay? One of the reasons why I did it on top of the cowl here, even though we're talking about engine grime, is I don't want the top to look very pristine, but I want to use a color that I'm actually going to be able to see. If you do like a black or something, like super dark black soot, well, on top of that black, on top of this black cowling, you're not going to see it. You're not going to notice it. I want to be able to see it. So, grab our thinner again. Now this time I am going to be using a softer brush. Okay. I'm using the softer brush because I want a bit of a softer look. I don't want to be stabbing at the cowling, and I want it to really blend. So on top of this black, it really just looks like brown, almost like dirt, and that's all right. But I'm wanting to spread it around and thin it out and really just make it look. Just giving a look really is all we're doing. If I'm doing this upside down on the camera, I'm sorry, it's upside down to me too. Right about now, I'm thinking maybe I've done too much. Right? So I'm going to clean off my brush, kind of clean this up a little bit. That's a nice thing about this paint. If you've done too much, you've gone too far, you can revisit it. You can always go back. And I'm going to bring it out even past into my numbers here. Like that. You can see I can even streak it. I can really bring it up. As little or as much as you like. That's one of the nice things about this. So my thumb's getting a little bit sore from holding it like that. Yeah, you can come off. Start working on these other spots. Fuel stains actually have a bit of a gloss tone to them, as if it's actually actual wet fuel. Now, of course, if I was going for a more, an airplane that hasn't quite seen as much air time as this, then I wouldn't put so much on, right? But my vision of this plane is that, well, it's South Korea, and in the Korean War, these things really got beat up. They're basically getting the used lot. Oops. And they weren't all in the best shape. They definitely weren't brand new. And yeah, that's the way that is. I do want to do some streaking down here because that's what happened. This is more than just few more dots to clean up. So go over to this side. Oop. Do a little bit of streaking on this now, just so that both sides get the same kind of deal. Now, this one is some kind of an oil drain, so I do need to streak that one properly for the airflow over the wing. That's normal, and that happens on that. Okay, so I'm going to add a few more now down the side of the fuselage, which is going to make it a little bit harder for me to hold on to because I'm going to have to grab it from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to add some dots along the side here to kind of dirty up the sides a little bit. Again, we're going to go with our panel liner back to the same one I did on the wings. So hold on to it like this. Put a couple of dots. I'm not going to do quite so much on the sides because, well, from what I've seen, the sides of the planes are a little bit cleaner than the wings were. So there. Okay, so we got our dots, and I'll just go in right away. Oops, wrong brush. I don't want them too much. Just a little bit. Couple of spots where I know that's like some kind of a drain hole for something, so just kind of utilize that, make it look like, yeah, something is actually drained out of there, and then it's drained and then got caught in the airflow. There we go. That's kind of a nice dirty side now. Dirtied up a little bit, yeah. Yeah, there we go. All right, bring that up into your view. Now I've got the side dirty a little bit, so I'll flip it over. Add some dots to this side. Because both sides are not always the same, put a little bit more on this side, so we just got that little bit more going on. Let's grab that thinner. Go to work. course, as you do this, your brush is going to get more and more accumulated on it. That's alright. Again, it's really up to you how far or how much you want to go with it. This one I want to clean up here to add, look like that drain dip. Too much there, so I'm going to clean up my brush, add a little bit of thinner, feather this one out a little bit more. That was just a little too much for that spot. You really can feather this out as much as you want. You go to the point where you're creating it almost like a filter on a particular panel. Again, it's really up to you how far you want to take it. Okay, this side is definitely dirtier, but that's what I went for. I wanted that. Last panel underneath. That's the next step. Okay. Underneath is going to be a combination of the engine grime and this stuff. So sorry, I'm totally doing this off camera. I just realized that as I go around this plane. Okay, so I've got the different things here. I've already kind of done this part. I'm going to do a little more than just the engine grime on it. Now, a lot of these are just already kind of blended in. One thing I've noticed about the underside of these planes, a lot of times if there is some kind of thing on the underside, it's really swept back and like all the grease and everything is all streaks on the underside of these planes. I want to stipple this on the wings a little more rather than looking like brush strokes. I want it kind of spread out and stippled. I can get rid of my cowl. Blend these two in together as one. That's a nice blend. I like that better. These ones I want to do a little better blending. So the more thinner you use, the better, the more it's going to spread out and blend. So you can actually make it quite wet with the thinner, and the thinner will spread it out and make it look a lot more blended out. Come over here, I'll put this down. My brush is actually quite wet with the thinner right now, so that's why it's blending out. You can see it almost bleeding around. I can get it really wet everywhere. Elevators, I want it to be streaked. And so there we have it. Now we're going to work on the here, and these I want streaked. I want streaking under here. Everything is a streak. I'm actually going to redo these because it's kind of, my brush was a little too wet with the thinner, and it basically just blended all my streaks into one great big streak, and that's not what I wanted, so I'm going to redo that. And so you'll see I'm going to add a little bit more because I actually want a couple of streaks. Whoops. Okay. I actually want it to streak like that. So I don't know where these streaks came from. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that it's streaking, and that's what I want. My brush is threatening to land on the floor. Last thing, I just want to do one or two right there on the tail. I apologize again if I'm doing a lot of this off camera because my paints are actually on the table. This one I'm imagining a little bit of hydraulics from the rear landing gear. That's what I'm doing. That's where that came from. There we go. So we've got our underside now, very, very dirty. Not that it's really showing on the camera, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty good in real life, but on the camera, not so much. Okay, now I need to clean my brushes. But before I do that, I'm going to add some dust to my tires. Okay, dust effects. Let's just make sure this is really good. Dust effects, bingo. We're doing that. All the way around. I want to make sure I get in all the grooves. I'll do the same on this side. Now it might look like, hey, you went way too far, like why are you doing that? Well, because again, this stuff comes off pretty easy, even on the rubber. Now if I was really trying to go for a super realistic look on a South Korean airplane, I could go so far as to add mud to the tires and do like mud splashes up on the underneath of the wings. But as you guys know, I don't really care too much about that because I care more about the areas of the plane that's actually going to be seen all the time. So now that I've cleaned my brush with the thinner and you get it almost dry, and now I'll start to kind of blend this on around the tire now. Cleaning off my brush quite a bit as I go, because I got a lot of pigment on there. Now if I get some on the landing gear and I get some on the rim, that's perfectly fine. In fact, if I wanted to try and clean up some more, I could wipe it down with a Q-tip and maybe get rid of some excess like that. Once you've basically reactivated it with the thinner, you can clean it up as much or as little as you want. Give it a wipe with your finger to really clean it up. It's really up to you. I just want to clean up the edges. So it looks a little more natural and blended. And then I'll be happy with that. Okay. Let's get a little bit in there, at the very top where I didn't really get in. Just reactivating it. Reactivating and blending. Take a little bit of excess off here. There we go. Our tires look a little bit more realistic, not just black brand new tires now. So now I want to seal this all in. I need to seal it in with a nice shiny clear coat, because this stuff doesn't, you can pull it up with your fingers very easily. So I want to lay a clear coat down over it, okay? And my clear coat is downstairs, so I have to come back. I'll be back in a minute. So I'm just going to be using Tamiya's TS13. Just to give it back some of its shine. Now, I don't actually want to do it everywhere because I want to give it that uneven look. What do I mean by uneven look? Well, I want it to look like the shininess is still there. I want it to look like there's still some shininess to it, while in other spots it's gone dull. So I've only done the clear, just a few little spots on there to seal it in. Tamiya, of course, their paint's drying so fast. It's so nice. You can pretty much touch it within a minute after. But I'm still going to be a little bit careful. So my panels are going to fall off on me. That's fine. You want to fall off too? Thank you. Okay. We can put these away. Okay. My thinner back over here. Put these paints here. Okay. All right. We're going to put our bombs on, and then we're going to be done. Our bombs and our rockets, I should say. Actually, before I do that, I need to clean my brush. So, I don't want the paint drying on my applicating brush. Actually, on any of them, I don't want it dry. I don't want any pigment drying on that one, so that's going to be clean. I'm cleaning with just regular lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner, of course, cleans anything. But you can't use lacquer thinner on these things. You use lacquer thinner, you're just going to eat right through all the paint. You'll eat into the plastic. You basically just ruin your model kit. And yeah, you don't want to do that. Okay, so we have our bombs and we have our rockets. As we mentioned before, the rockets, there's only two that actually line up with all the holes. And I believe that's this one. The rest of these I've got to do custom. Okay. Let's flip this over. Put her down like this. Okay. And I'll change the camera back and I'll show you guys what I mean. Okay. Now the bombs, they're going to fit fine. Right? They're going to be okay. And there's a hole in the top of them right there. That's going to line up with the peg right there, or there, whichever side you want to do. Okay? That is not a problem. I've test fit the bombs on these before, so I already know that they're going to fit. Everything's going to line up great. It's just a matter of getting it lined up now that it's on the plane. One. Find that hole. There's the second. Okay. Now, our rockets. I actually only have one. So this one, how it's got two pegs at the front and one at the front of the back. This one's going to go right here. It should fit in just like that. Flawless, right? So I can glue that one down right now and I'll have no issues with it. Done. Okay. The rest of these, however, they don't line up. Like there isn't another one that has two holes. This one on this side, it has two, but I've got to trim this one off. Got to cut a peg off. So let's cut this one off. If I cut that one off, does that fit in there? That lines up. Okay, so we got that one. Oops, I knocked my bomb. I might have to re-glue that. Okay. That's lined up. Lined up. There we go. But the rest of these don't have, the pegs do not line up with the holes. So what I've done is I've cut off the back. I've cut them off prematurely and left the front ones on so I can line them all up at the front and then just set them down at the back, because that's really all I can do. I'm not 100% sure what I missed in the instructions causing this particular situation, but that's the situation I have right now. So I'll just line these up as best as I can. I see those are too close together even to work at all. So what I'm going to do is, unfortunately, it's going to have to do this. I've seen some reference photos of these on the plane like this with no line up with your hole. Like that with no rocket on it. So that's what I'm going to do for the third rocket. I'll just snip that off and glue it in place. So the plane has 4 spots. Well, it has 6, but really only four rockets. That's what I'm going to do. So we'll see this side, see how this one turns out. Let's tip this up like this. go. I'm going to test fit this one to see if this will fit. See, this one's fine. This side's fine. So for whatever reason, they got the hole for the missile too close on this side, but this side's fine. Calling it a missile, but it's a rocket. There we have it. My bombs are a little loose because I did a little bit of wiggling around with it when I was putting it on, so I'm going to add some of my extra thin. In fact, it's not glued on at all. Get this bomb put back on. There. How's this one? This one feels a little better, but not much. Just make sure with a little bit of thin set. All right. And that, guys, is finished. And that finally concludes the build of my F-51 Mustang. Okay. I'm going to assume I can flip this over without everything falling off on the bottom. Put my cowl back on. Actually, no. I gotta remove some tape. I have not glued this piece on, so this should be able to come off. Still, it's stuck though, so maybe not. Well, even after all my painting, the canopy is still nice and clear, so that's good. There. Cowl is on. This propeller goes in. Done. Panels in. Plane complete. Done. Just like that. Okay guys, that is the airplane. That's our aircraft. That's our F-51 Mustang, 1/32 scale by Tamiya. It would be nice if the canopy was on some kind of a rail or something to slide it back like this properly instead of it kind of flopping it around, but that's alright. That's such a minor little complaint. There we go. Okay, so guys, this is where I'm gonna leave it for now. I say for now, but really I'm done. That's it. That completes the build. Finally done, right? How many episodes? This is what, 19 or something? Maybe 20? I've lost count. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some still pictures of this thing and I'll upload it to my Instagram so you guys can see a little bit better than what the camera's showing here. And yeah, it looks pretty good. I like it. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank you for coming out. Thank you for all the comments throughout this series. Thank you guys. My next build, I know this is going to be a disappointment to some of you, or maybe most of you even. I'm going to be building a Gundam. Okay, this Gundam has come into my lap through my lovely girlfriend, who gave me a Gundam kit for my birthday. I promised her I would build it next, and so that's what I'm going to be doing. After that, we'll be doing something totally different and unique that I've not done before on this channel, so stay tuned for that. Head over to my Instagram, check out the still pictures of every build I've ever done, at least in the last 3 years or so. Head over to my Twitch channel. I'll have lots of links down in the description box below. I want to thank you guys again for watching, and thanks for all the support, and we'll see you all in the next one.